It started with the feeling that something was off. My wife, Aisha, had been distant for weeks. Her phone was always glued to her hand, and she would suddenly walk out of the room when she got certain messages. At first, I told myself it was work stress or maybe just her needing space, but deep down, a gnawing suspicion began to grow. I ignored it for a while, convincing myself that my marriage was strong enough to withstand whatever was happening. But that uneasy feeling refused to leave. I began noticing little changes, her dressing up more often, wearing perfume when she was just going shopping, and a sudden disinterest in spending time with me. The biggest red flag was when she started asking me for extra cash every few days. She claimed it was for groceries, small repairs, or helping her family, but the amounts didn't add up. I make a decent living, and I've always provided for her, so it wasn't about the money, it was about where it was going. One afternoon, I decided to follow her without telling her. She had told me she was going to visit her cousin. I stayed a safe distance behind, and instead of going toward her cousin's place, she headed toward a small roadside cafe on the outskirts of the city. She parked the car and walked straight in. A few minutes later, I saw him, a man in his late 20s, wearing a cheap leather jacket and a smug expression. He was the same man who sometimes drove our car when Aisha said she needed help running errands. It was our driver, Salman. I watched from across the street as they sat together, laughing and leaning in close. It wasn't just friendly, it was intimate. My chest tightened with anger, but I forced myself to stay calm. If I stormed in, it would turn into a shouting match with no proof. I needed evidence. I pulled out my phone and took photos of them together, making sure to capture the moments that would speak louder than any words. Over the next week, I dug deeper. I checked our bank withdrawals and found that Aisha had been taking out cash almost daily. Every time, it was shortly before Salman's errand days. I even asked one of my friends to follow Salman when he wasn't working for us. That's when I learned the worst. Salman wasn't just spending time with my wife. He was using my money to take her out, buy her gifts, and even rent a small apartment for their meetings. The betrayal was like a knife twisting in my gut. Not only was my wife cheating, but she was doing it with a man I had employed, trusted, and paid. And she was financing the affair with the very money I earned for our family. I decided that if she wanted to play games, I would end it in a way she would never forget. One Friday evening, I told Aisha I had a business trip and would be gone overnight. In reality, I was setting the stage. I left home in the morning, parked my car a few streets away, and waited. By the afternoon, I saw Salman's motorcycle pull up to my gate. Moments later, Aisha came out, dressed like she was going on a date, and got on behind him. I followed them to that same rented apartment. This time, I didn't just take photos, I recorded everything. I caught them kissing at the door, entering together, and not coming out for hours. When they finally emerged, laughing like nothing in the world could touch them, I was ready. I confronted them right there on the street. The look on Aisha's face was priceless, shock, fear, and shame all mixed together. Salman froze, mumbling excuses about just giving her a ride. I shoved the evidence in their faces, photos, videos, bank statements. A small crowd had gathered by then, curious about the commotion. I made sure everyone knew exactly what had been happening. I told them how my wife and my driver had been using my own money to fund their little love story. Salman tried to walk away, but I made it clear that he wouldn't just lose his job, he'd face legal consequences for theft. Aisha's pleas for me to talk privately fell on deaf ears. I told her she could pack her things and leave by the end of the night. She broke down, begging for forgiveness, but the damage was beyond repair. Trust, once shattered, doesn't grow back. I felt no pity, only a grim satisfaction that she had been caught in front of strangers. The divorce process was quick. I kept all the evidence and ensured she got nothing beyond what was legally required. Salman disappeared from the area soon after, probably too embarrassed to face anyone. Friends and family told me I had been brave, but it didn't feel like bravery, it felt like survival. In the weeks that followed, I focused on rebuilding my life. The house was quieter, but it was a peaceful kind of quiet. I no longer had to wonder where my money, or my wife, was going. The betrayal still stung, but knowing I had exposed the truth gave me a strange sense of closure. Sometimes, late at night, I think back to the signs I ignored. The way she smiled at her phone, the unexplained expenses, the excuses that didn't make sense. I realize now that people show you who they are, you just have to be willing to see it. I wasn't willing before, but I am now. I learned the hard way that love can blind you, but betrayal will open your eyes wide. Aisha and Salman taught me that trust isn't just given, it's earned every single day. And once it's gone, no amount of tears or apologies can bring it back. Now, when I pass by that roadside cafe or see a motorcycle like Salman's, I feel nothing but relief. Relief that I walked away. Relief that I no longer share my home, my money, or my life with someone capable of such deceit. My heart may still carry the scars, but at least my conscience is clean. Because in the end, I didn't just expose my wife's affair, I exposed the truth. And the truth, no matter how painful, is always worth knowing.